Welcome to the Neo News Today podcast. I'm your host, Dylan of Neo News Today. In episode 57 of the NNT pod, I sat down and spoke with Claude Müller and Guil Machado, senior software engineers at AxLabs, the entity responsible for maintaining the Neo3J Java-based toolkit. In this episode, Guil, Claude, and I talked about the Neo3J tools for building smart contracts, porting those tools from legacy to N3, the importance of documentation, new and future use cases, feedback they've received from Neo Frontier Launchpad participants, why developers should build on Neo, and much more. So I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation with Guil and Claude as much as I enjoyed having it. Hey guys, what's going on? Dylan with Neo News Today podcast. Today we are joined again by returning guests, Claude Müller and Guil Machado, senior software engineers at AxLabs, the team responsible for maintaining Neo3J. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing fine, Dylan. All good.
Yeah, me too. I just got the second vaccination, so I hope I will not get any fever.
Awesome. It's hopefully the more we get these vaccinations, the closer we can get to traveling again and hanging out in person. Something I've definitely missed. So you guys are returning guests, and maybe just as a brief overview for listeners who might be new to the Neo News Today podcast, can you just share a little bit of background information on what Neo3J is and its relationship to AxLabs?
Yes, absolutely. So Neo3J is basically a Java, Kotlin, a JVM-based toolkit for the new blockchain. And so you can write your smart contracts, and it's also an SDK that you can write your backends. And AxLabs is the main maintainer of Neo3J project. We keep things like developing new features and doing maintenance and ensuring that the project is healthy and reliable for the whole ecosystem. Yeah.
Awesome. So you guys joined the podcast in November of 2020, so about a little over half a year ago, and your team was smaller then. So can you share a little bit about how your team has grown in the past 9 months?
Yes. So we had it was like me, Guil, doing the maintenance together with Claude, that is also here. But me, he joined our team, I think last year. He was together with us, but in that time, I think the podcast he was not part of the podcast, but he was part of AxLabs. But this year he just started working a bit more, for AxLabs, which is always a good thing. And we could do cooler things together that are gonna talk later in this podcast. Anyway, yeah. Awesome.
So how big's your team now? Is it just the three of you?
Yes, it's me, Claude, and Miri. Each of us. Well, we have not nicknames, but we have some cool nicknames inside our team. So, for example, Claude is our the skilled clown. Me, I'm the typer freak because I type very fast when developing, and Mihi is I think he's the full stack junkie because he likes to do a bit of everything. So yeah, it's quite a cool team, small, but we do a lot. Yeah.
Cool. And maybe before we delve into it, Claude, maybe in your words, could you just share with us who you think Neo3J is built for?
Yeah, sure. Well, Neo3J is built for Java developers, simply put. For Java developers that like to build something with Neo, of course. It just makes your life much easier if you either want to get into contact with the Neo platform or want to delve more into it and write your own smart contracts. So we offer you the tools for the whole palette.
Cool. So we're kind of at an interesting inflection point in Neo's history. We're on the cusp of Neo N3 mainnet launching, slowly rolling out as it has been throughout the year. And you both have been very busy porting Neo3j from legacy to N3. So generally speaking, for the average Neo holder who isn't a developer, what has that process looked like?
So, like since the last time we had a podcast with you from November, there was a lot of work that we had to do to adapt to the new Neo N3 changes, of course, and Neo N3 was changing a lot in that time and improving a lot as well. So we followed all these changes, but we also had more work to do on Neo3j that was still missing. So the compiler wasn't fully finished at that time. Like shortly after November, after we had our first talk, we finally completed the support for all the Neo VM features. Like we had to add some stuff like throwing smart contract events or support for exceptions and try catch clauses. And so we finished till the end of the year, till the end of last year, we finished the full support for the Neo VM. But then we weren't done yet, of course. So there were the Neo N3 changes, but there was also a lot of things we could still improve, and that's what we did over the last few months. We adapted the dev pack in such a way that it became more intuitive to work with Java and Neo, because Java is obviously not firstly made for Neo, right? So we have to make it clear to the developer that he's actually working with Java for Neo, not Java for other applications. So that's where we try to put our focus on, that it becomes clear for the developer. And same for the SDK. Like we divide Neo3j into the dev pack compiler and into an SDK. And the SDK, you just use that for building dApps around the Neo platform. And the SDK was also, we had to adapt it a lot for the Neo N3 releases. And but there we also we simplified the structure a lot. And I think it's much more intuitive now to use than it was before. We have a lot of convenience classes in there, which help you interface with contracts on the Neo blockchain really easily, really intuitively. Yeah.
It's really cool. So I was taking a look at the Neo3J.io website, and the documentation for N3 looks awesome. You can really tell a difference between what was available for legacy and what is available now for N3. So I remember when we were at NCA in Shanghai in 2019, documentation was a huge conversation topic. So can one of you delve into how important it is to keep documentation up to date, and how does it compare how does the N3 documentation today compare to that of legacy?
Well, I mean, I don't have words to express that, Dylan, because I mean, we both, me and Claude, we started developing things for the legacy, and we were in the position of developers listen to this podcast, back in the days. And I mean, that on that days, we simply, the documentation was, to be honest, in the whole Neo ecosystem, not that great. And I see this evolving over time, and the whole community took this for as a serious thing and a commitment to improve. And no different than others, we took this very seriously. So that's why while developing something, a feature or a new release, we always think, so should we update the documentation? Who's going to do it? It will be me, it will be Claude, Mihi. And in the end, of course, developers, they don't like to update things, update the documentation, write stuff. But then, we find a way. We sometimes say, okay, I can do it. Sometimes Mihi writes it, Claude. But I mean, it's way better. And one of the points that was discussed in one of the last community meetings in Neo is the tutorial or the example the examples. So when you write documentation, write the concepts, but also write examples that people can follow. And I'm a huge fan of boilerplates. I don't know if the audience knows or Dylan know what is a boilerplate, but it's something like you take a project which you can start boiling, and you take that, you copy, you clone that, and then you start developing on top of that further. But the boilerplate is a project that if you just like put some comments, and you try to execute it, it works. And then like for the developer, it's pretty cool. When you read the documentation, you end up like in the tutorial examples part, and you see, oh, there's a boilerplate for this. I will start having a Neo3J DApp boilerplate that I can start my DApp, my DApp development. So yeah, being a developer and like in other projects and other things, and coming from the new legacy, I think this is pretty important. It makes the life very easier. Yeah, it's smooth.
Totally. Yeah, I think in a lot of the outreach I've done with developers who are new to the ecosystem and are participating in the hackathon going on right now, templates and boilerplates are a lot of things they're looking for. They're asking for examples because there's just no previous documentation for these functions and these sort of smart contracts that you can build in N3. So now that we've ported and we're porting from legacy to N3, what are some other use cases you guys envision for using Neo and the Neo3J toolkit?
So I think one of the things that at least excites me to be built on Neo 3 is like DAOs. And this governance, like entities that are organized in a way that is decentralized. You have the funds there, and I think in other blockchains, of course, in Ethereum and others, this is something kind of popular. But it's still in Neo 3, you have all the building blocks. I mean, you can see Neo as a platform, a framework, which has all the legal pieces, the legal blocks around this framework, like NewFS, like all the tools for development experience that it's easier. It's very easy to build an application like Neo Express, Neo3J, Neo Boa, all the languages. So. In oracles, for example, or built-in oracles on chain. So all of these are legal pieces. And when you start like, if you look to DAOs, it makes, I think, life much easier. And this is one of the things that we are very excited about. Yeah.
So are you working on just like a general boilerplate for a DAO, or is there a specific instance that you're building these frameworks for? So
actually, I don't know. I think it was covered, but we recently just released this meme governance DApp. And the meme governance DApp is basically a kind of a boilerplate. I can call a boilerplate, which is divided in two projects, like two boilerplates. One for the smart contracts and another one for the front end. The DApp in the browser that has integration with Neoline, full integration with Neoline, fully working. It's amazing. I think we are one of the first projects out there that released something end-to-end with Neoline. So what is a meme governance DApp? Is basically a very simple protocol, let's put it this way, that you can propose new memes that will be part of this protocol, and then you can make proposals like, this meme, you give like a JPEG, a picture of the meme and the description, the title, and then once you submit this proposal, you can submit this proposal only if you have guests, if you're a guest holder, and then anyone can submit a proposal, and then people vote Like anyone holding a gas can vote that on that proposal. And if you have like more, at least 2 votes out of 3, then the meme gets elected. So, and then, I mean, this is a very simple mechanism on DAOs and governance built with Neo3 and integrated, on all different angles, like Neoline, Neo3J with the contracts, using Neo Express tools, and like all of stuff. That it serves as a boilerplate that others can take this project and then evolve and modify things and build other things on top of it.
Yeah, it was one of the workshops that was recently held for the Launchpad where you guys did just basically a presentation on the meme governance app, and it was really cool to see in real time people using it and voting while you guys were giving the presentation. I remember you were getting particularly excited about that, Guil, which was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry to interrupt you. I mean, I got excited because if you have like 7 or 10 votes on a proposal, and I didn't even ask for people to vote on, it means that it worked. Because people are like all over the world participating in this workshop. They were just clicking around and they say, oh, it works. I could vote on it. So I got excited because it was the first time that people were like using it and actually it worked. Yeah.
Awesome. So Claude, maybe you can share a little bit about what's going on with Neo Playground. Can you just briefly introduce to listeners who aren't familiar with the project and talk about the recent developments?
Yeah. So, well, like Guil is the main maintainer of the Neo Playground, so I don't want to say anything wrong. So just correct me, Guil, if I'm wrong what I'm saying. So the Neo Playground was from our side envisioned to be used in the hackathon, but in the end we didn't see so much fuss around it while the hackathon was running. I think there was hard to get it to the developers to actually, because there was so many options for them to use already. So I think they were a bit overwhelmed, so they didn't see much of the Neo Playground going on. But yeah, it's a project that is still alive, and we're still we're seeing more interest now than before, and I think that we can in future build it further and further. So yeah, Guil, maybe you can add a bit more.
Yeah, I think you made it. I mean, you told everything right. Yeah, it's just that our focus had also to shift towards Neo3J and the tools, right? To deliver our tools and our our library for Neo and 3 in a timely manner. Because and then we had to choose it's all about priorities, right, Dylan? So we had Neo3J is a priority, and then New Playground is something in our ecosystem that we're going to help maybe after the hackathon on tutorials when you go out there, maybe trying to educate people and bring the other people on board to Neo. So we envisage that if you go, for example, to a university or to a meetup, and you don't want to waste a lot of people's time on installing tools in their computers, you just say, go to newplayground.dev, get an example, and start doing what is important, like developing smart contracts and trying things out, and not spending time installing all your stuff, your crap in your computer that sometimes it works in Windows, sometimes it doesn't work in Linux and whatever.
So just from a non-developer's perspective, the Neo Playground is a website that you can go to and you can play around with all these tools and smart contracts, and the developer environment is in the website. Exactly.
And I mean, the greatest thing about Neo Playground is an IDE, is a VS Code in the browser. It's not like a custom-made website where you have to find out how to click it or how to find the contracts. No, basically we transfer VS Code, which is an IDE that you can install locally, but in a browser. So if you ever seen VS Code in your computer, you will get familiar pretty fast in New Playground on the web.
Cool. So I've heard from a variety of hackathon, Neo Frontier Launchpad Hackathon participants that they've used Neo3J tooling, and that the AxLabs team in particular has been very helpful, along with many other community members, not to single you guys out or anything. So what have your initial impressions from the Launchpad been so far in terms of how developers are able to pick up and work with N3 and also Neo3J?
Well, I got to say, I was surprised how well it went so far. I mean, it's only 4 days left now. So yeah, this whole time went quite well. Well, first of all, for us, it was really valuable. Like, I'm really thankful that that Neo Foundation did this hackathon, or that the hackathon brought a lot of valuable information to us. So first of all, it showed that our tools are useful, that they work. This was the first time where a lot of people came in and used it, and that was very satisfying and motivating to see that it works. We received a lot of valuable feedback from the users, from the developers, and we kind of grazed the developers off of the Neo Discord server and took them into private chats to get as much information from them as possible. And we're still pushing them sometimes, like, tell us what are the give us a bullet points. What do you want to have improved in Neo3J Dev Pack? So these kind of things. That was great for us. And we were also surprised the ideas that they had, because we were so focused on doing the tooling, we didn't think about what would we actually build with the tooling, right? Well, we did come up with the governance topic there. That was one thing we did, but otherwise, yeah, we're just working on the tooling all the time. We forget the bigger picture sometimes. And we were really liking what we see, what the developers do on Neo, and also not just building on top of the Neo platform, but also there was one guy who started doing a plugin for IntelliJ, for the IntelliJ IDE, that is kind of like what the visual tracker is for VS Code. So he kind of gives us faith that we could take whatever we have in VS Code at the moment, where we try to have this one singular package where you could do everything, every language, Python, Go, C#, Java, you could take and work with VS Code and the plugins that we have already from the Neo community there. But then this guy came along and started building a plugin for IntelliJ, where you could use Neo Express in IntelliJ, and that's so it seems like there is a need for that. So we saw a bit the sentiments that are around in the Java community if they come to Neo.
So are you guys getting a sense of maybe moving forward after the hackathon of potential features or new tools that you're going to provide for Neo3J? And if so, could you maybe just give an example of one?
Yeah, so this one thing was on our agenda already for a long time. I mean, it didn't come in new from what the developers told us, but testing is not super smooth yet with Neo3J. We're building a test framework which you can use in combination with JUnit, the JUnit testing framework of Java, to smoothly test your smart contracts. And we want to incorporate Neo Express there as well, so that you can use the startup shutdown and the checkpoint features of Neo Express to really do really elaborate tests of your smart contracts. And then we think that the workflow with Neo3J is still improvable. Like, it's not yet optimal. It's you can do everything basically that you want to, but the workflow can always be improved. It's not yet. When we use it ourselves, we realize, okay, there's some things that we're not used to as developers, where we feel, okay, if we hit save, it should compile immediately and show me all the errors. It doesn't do that yet. So we're looking into providing more integration into, well, probably Visual Studio Code, because that's where at the moment most tooling is. But if we see that the IntelliJ plugin is amazing, then we'll see if we can go in that direction as well. But yeah, just work on the developer workflow to make the developers happy.
Awesome. Kind of wrapping up, I just wanted to ask you guys this general question. Why Neo? Why should a developer who's new to blockchain or even experienced in blockchain development, why should they look to Neo to build the next great dApp?
So Very good question, Dylan. It's so I think like as I said in the last podcast, we from AxLabs, we also have experience in other chains, and I mean, if you look to Ethereum, for example, or others, I feel that Neo like learned a lot during this time, and learned with the best, and sometimes in the hard way, but it learned. And now we are building so many building blocks that will all together. I think it will be easier to onboard, to attract projects to this chain, to Neo3 chain. So if you look to Ethereum, they have many projects already there. The ecosystem is large, but sometimes to accomplish something, it's you have to rely on others. You have to rely on external things and external articles. And in Neo, actually, you have this already. So this is one of the attractive things, in my opinion. So this is the good part of it. The bad part of it is that if you decide to come to Neo, you already have these building blocks ready to go, building articles, etc. But maybe in the beginning, you're not going to have stable coins, for example, or many of them. And then, of course, it will take some time. Maybe Neo is working on that, and it will come. It will come. That's my personal opinion, of course. It will come. But if you don't have these other building blocks like stable currencies, or maybe if a lending protocol doesn't come to Neo, it starts. It will be a bit difficult. So, but in my opinion, the hardest part, which is the underlying building blocks, it's there. So now it's easier. It's easier to onboard. So that's why I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree with Guil. Like these points all make sense to me as well. But I'm also excited just because Neo, the downside of Neo that it doesn't have like stable coins or many different DeFi projects yet, is also an upside for me, which is it's not that crowded yet. So for us, it's more interesting to take part in it. We have a more important part. So we're very egocentric in that way. But so it's still more of an experiment, and I think that is an interesting part of or it's interesting being part of this experiment as well, and to see where it's going once the mainnet is launching. How is the voting and the governance going to work? And
Yeah, and I mean, everyone that joins will make a difference. I think that's is an experimental thing, of course, but everyone that joins and be part of this ecosystem will make a difference, will have a voice. And this is, that's why we're New.
Totally. It's almost like the Field of Dreams analogy. If you build it, they will come.
Exactly.
Well, you guys have graciously shared your time with me and the Neo News Today community. It was awesome to have you guys come back on as guests for the podcast, and it was really cool to hear from your perspective about some of the great responses you've been receiving from participants in the hackathon, who are talking about the tools you guys have been working really hard on building over the past few years. So congratulations, and also keep up the good work. Because the good fight isn't over yet. We're just starting. We have the architecture built. Now we have the tools. Now we need to build the city. So just want to thank you guys again for joining the podcast, and really look
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and really look forward to just hearing more from participants in the event, and also just seeing you guys continue to support new community members as they start to come into the ecosystem.
Thanks a lot, Dylan. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for the motivation.
It's always a pleasure. It's always good to talk to you. And one last thing that I have to say is by looking to all these use cases that people were building and we were helping for the hackathon, I mean, we see games like being built with Neo3J. We see like logistics applications. I mean, we've seen yesterday we helped some guy. We see like dev tools being built with Neo3J. So we're pretty excited, and it's always good to talk to you, Dylan, to expose this to people out there. and keep the ball rolling. Thanks a lot.
Sweet. Well, we will definitely have a follow-up podcast sometime in the future, and we'll catch you guys then. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Looking forward to it. Bye-bye.
Well, what did you think of that conversation? It was great to catch up with Guil and Claude to learn a little more about what they've been working on since the last time they joined the Neo News Today podcast. I really enjoyed hearing about the feedback the team has been receiving from Neo Frontier Launchpad participants and how it will shape future Neo3J tooling. And it was great to learn more about the use cases that AxLabs envisions for Neo moving forward. To keep up to date with the latest in the Neo ecosystem, visit www.neonewstoday.com. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify. And leave a 5-star review if you feel that others should hear our content. Every subscription and review helps others learn more about the Neo News Today podcast and the Neo ecosystem. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Neo News Today podcast, and we look forward to catching you next time.